Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to another Supatease video. And with this one, I am bringing you my 10.1 ultimate Boomkin PvP guide. By the end of this video, you will know all of my secrets. You will know all of my tips to be able to explode your rating on the ladder and start having a ton of fun. Because in 10.1, Balanced Druid is back, baby. It's going to be dominant, and it's just a really great experience. You're not going to regret picking this class. And of course, if you want to stay up to date with changes related to the game, news, updates, entertaining, and educational content, then make sure to hit the subscribe button. Your support is greatly appreciated. But let's get started with the Balanced Druid. We have a lot to cover here. The first thing that we are going to be looking at is the gear, because it's 10.1. It's a new patch. There's new gear and there's new things to think about. You don't want to be putting the wrong thing in the wrong spot here when it comes to the gear. The first thing that you're going to want to do right off the bat with 10.1 is farm your full honor set. You can do this through a variety of activities, right? I'm sure you all know how to farm honor, battlegrounds, world PvP, etc. This gear is going to be better if you're coming from season 1 than your 4-piece gear from season 1, because the intellect and stamina. The intellect is going to offset the damage bonuses from your 4-piece, and the stamina is going to be very important because you're a target in PvP a lot and you're going to die a lot. You need that stamina. So just turn your brain off with this, farm out the full honor set of gear. It takes no time at all, and then just fully enchanted here. I'm focusing on haste and versatility, as you can see, based on my stat priority, and I am running an Obsidian Insignia of Alacrity, which is going to provide us even more haste, provide us even more intellect, because when it comes to Balanced Druid in 10.1, it's really just all about how much damage can you do. I have, however, decided to go with versatility and mastery gems. This is to increase our durability with versatility, and mastery is then to increase our damage further, because we're going to start hitting some diminishing return breakpoints with our stats getting too high with how high up our scaled gear is going to get. Now, the next big question when it comes to gear is crafted gear, and this is the new feature. This is the new stuff that I honestly wanted to ignore, but it seems to be too big to ignore. The first one that you're going to want to focus on is the embellishment of precognition, and a lot of questions come into what slot of gear should I craft this piece on, and honestly it comes down to you want to craft it on gloves, you want to get haste and versatility missives, and the reason that you want to get it on gloves is because our PvP gloves don't have haste versatility, they have versatility mastery. So this is going to let us specialize more into those stats that are going to be more desirable for the playstyle of Balanced Druid. We want as many global cooldowns as possible, and we want our cyclones as fast as possible, and we want to be tanky. Those are the three main goals with our gear, and that's going to help us get there. So make sure you craft your precognition on your gloves. The second main reason that this is going to be important is because of our set bonuses. As soon as I can figure out where that tab is, you're going to really want to make sure that you're crafting your 2-piece bonus. I don't know why this is taking me so long to find here, but you're probably going to avoid going for your 4-piece bonus. You're likely going to be wanting to go only for your 2-piece bonus. I don't know why they've got it here in the Shadowlands. It's really awkward to find. The main reason that we don't want the gloves, again, crit mastery, bad stats. We don't want these. So craft your precognition on your gloves. And this tier set bonuses that you're going to want to acquire are the pants, haste, versatility. It goes without thinking here too much, as well as the shoulders. This is going to provide you versatility and mastery. Again, going to bring down our haste a bit, but we're going to hit that cap anyways. We want the tier pieces that have versatility, so that way we're as tanky as possible. And the 2-piece bonus is going to increase the radius of our Sunfire, which really doesn't matter, but our Sunfire, Moonfire, and Shooting Stars damage is going to be increased by 10%, because these are nerfed by 50% in PvP, and 10% damage on what comes out to like close to 40 to 50% of your overall damage is a huge increase. So you can maintain your stat priority with the 2-piece bonus and still get a huge effect. The 4-piece bonus, I'm going to do some testing into the future, so make sure that you're following the channel in the future. I'll let you know how that goes, but I'm not anticipating the 4-piece bonus, given the fact that you're going to be losing a lot of versatility, to really be worth it, with the helmet being crit haste and the chest piece being haste mastery, and then the gloves, as we've said, which we're going to completely avoid. I think you're likely going to be losing too much in order to get this, but I will be experimenting. Initially, I'm not going after it. It's still early in the season, so it's still wait to be seen in regards to this, but definitely get precognition on gloves and try and get the versatility tier pieces, being the shoulders and pants first, so that way you're going to be tanky and playing into the strengths of Balanced Druid. The next couple crafted pieces that you're going to want to take into consideration is the Toxic Thorn Foot Wraps. Now, this one doesn't have great stats. However, the effect on it is really powerful. It has a chance to just shoot out a heal to your allies or shoot out damage onto your enemies. And this crafted piece can go anywhere I've seen from 5 to 10% of your overall damage. This is one that maybe you want to have a caveat though, because it's probably going to get nerfed. You can maybe get it now and experiment with it and see what happens. Maybe it doesn't get nerfed, then it's just going to be really powerful. But I would recommend going after this one along with precognition. The secondary one would be the cloak, and the cloak is what is going to be providing you, if I can find the cloak here, this is going to be providing you a shield when you dip low on health. So when you dip below 30% health, it's going to grant you a 100k shield. This is also nerfed in PvP, but it's still going to be pretty effective, and Balanced Druid really likes to have survivability. So again, these two crafted pieces are things that I think you'll switch depending on matchup. So if you're fighting in teams where you know you're going to get tunneled down, maybe by a lot of melee DPS, you know, or by a rogue, you probably want to have the shield. But if you're in a wizard lobby and you're fighting all those casters, you're going to want those leather boots. They're going to proc some extra poison damage and give some extra healing to your team. So over the weeks here, I think you can only craft one of these a week. Those are the 3 crafted pieces that I'm going to be going after. I'm honestly thinking of them kind of like Shadowlands legendaries, and I'm going to be flipping them given on the situation. If I want more survivability, this cloak is going to be a pretty good failsafe, even if it's nerfed to go after. Again, it's got versatility on it, so that's a bonus. Whereas the leather boots that I just showed you don't really have great stats, but so long as their damage effect stays as powerful as it is, it's definitely going to be worth losing the stats. So just keep an eye on that. And again, I do update videos, patch note videos, so you'll know if this thing gets nerfed in the future. Those are the crafted pieces that you're going to want to go after. The next thing that you're going to want to be doing every week is the World PvP quest, because in the gearing up phase, you can pick up your World PvP quest from a dude over here. I think I've already picked it up, so it's not popping up. And then you can turn it in over here, and you can buy World PvP gear, which then can be upgraded. So what you basically want to do with this World PvP gear, my recommendation would be to wait until you get your vault next week. If you get a weapon in your vault, you're obviously going to want to go for the weapon. If you don't get a weapon in your vault, then save these currencies, and I highly recommend that you get the weapon from this vendor, assuming that I can find it. It should be a haste versatility staff. So this is what I did last season. It's definitely the most powerful thing you can get right away. So save your World PvP quest for this weapon. If you don't get one from your vault, get this World PvP weapon and then upgrade it. It's going to really save you a lot. You're not going to fall behind anybody that happens to get lucky. And aside from that, as far as stat allocation on these items compared to the other ones, you can just pick them up as you're going week to week after you get the weapon. Just focus on the ones that, you know, have haste and versatility as a priority, which would be things like the boots, unless you're doing the crafted boots. And then verse mastery would be the next one that you could go after. You're probably not going to want to buy tier slots. So like we went over the shoulders and the pants. You're probably not going to want to buy the shoulders and the pants for conquest. Or sorry, no, you can get the conquest ones because you can convert them. Maybe you can't convert them yet. Maybe don't get the conquest pants. Hold on to that for a second. But you probably want to avoid the pants and the shoulders on this because you're going to be trying to go after the tier. Go after the other slots that have versatility and mastery. Something like the chest would be a great pickup. And this is going to allow you to accelerate your gearing process. So you're going to be ahead of people week to week in that regards. And this is going to be the best way to gear. Haste versatility. Mastery is not terrible. You just generally kind of want to avoid crit. And then everything else is going to be a nice mix. It's just that haste gives us a lot of global cooldowns, and versatility is going to make us more durable, which are the most important things for Balanced Druid in PvP. But now let's get started with the talents. I will have these talents linked in the description down below. There's basically 2 main loadouts that I am switching between. This is the first loadout. This is the easy to play, super beginner friendly, also really good at the high level in situations, does the most damage in the game. You will not play another set of talents that does more damage than this. You will absolutely crush people. This is the new version of the Starfall build. And with things like Stellar Innervation, it's basically like spamming Moonfire. It feels a lot like Cataclysm. In that regard, the Fury of Elune buffs feel really nice. You're going to be cutting people down with AoE. Your honor talents are going to be Starburst, of course, because we're running the Starfall build. Moonkin Aura to provide us more critical strike chance. And I like running Dying Stars with this build so that if healers are dispelling our dots, they are going to take even further dot damage onto themselves. But if you're having a hard time or if it's double melee DPS, you're going to want to run Thorns instead. with this build. It's just going to be better. It's going to do way more damage to melee DPS. Even with one melee DPS, Thorns is going to be probably better than Dying Stars on average. The other one, if you're really struggling to try and get Cyclones out, you can go for Owlkin Adept. This will just speed up your Cyclones. It's going to be really good if you have precognition at this point, because it's going to allow you to fake cast easier because your clones are so fast. And those are kind of the three talents that I would flip through on this third one. Starburst is pretty auto locked in with this build. Moonkin Aura is pretty auto locked in this build. Melee DPS, run Thorns. If I want to clone more, I'll go for Owlkin Adept. And if I'm not fighting a lot of melee DPS, I go Dying Stars. So if the healer dispels my dots, I can swap to the healer and do a lot of damage to them. On the left side of the tree, you're also going to want to change your talents occasionally. So this is kind of set up to survive a melee attacker. So if there's a bunch of people chasing you down, you've got reduced cooldown Stampeding Roar, and you've got extra armor and stamina and bear form. Now, if you're fighting casters, you're going to want to flip these two out and get Innervate and Nature's Vigil. So if you're fighting double spellcaster, just flip those two talents is the only change you got to make. And this is going to give you more longevity by giving Innervate to your healer. And this is going to give you more padded healing to deal with the amount of kind of dot damage that is available to casters. So if we're fighting double caster, we get those two. If we're not, we're fighting melee, we flip those two in. We're tankier and we move faster. And that's kind of my general thought process for this loadout, which again is going to be in the description down below. The next build is the single target build, which I'm still utilizing the talent tree from the previous patch. I think that this talent tree in the hands of a skilled balanced druid player is likely going to bring you more consecutive success. It's harder to play. It has more keybinds. But from my own experience now on the ladder, I just unlocked the elite set for this season. This talent was more consistent. Probably not as fun, not as beginner friendly. So take that into account. You might want to graduate yourself into this. Start with a Starfall build, focus on doing damage. But with this build, you focus way more on cycloning. And not so much on just kind of like you try and do as much damage as possible, but it's just not going to achieve what the Starfall build can. And it's more about controlling your enemies, stopping them from winning the game, using Cyclone a lot more, and then timing your burst for that one single moment that you can carry the game. So if you're really good at identifying those moments, you're going to be able to secure matches way faster with this build. With this build, I've got Thrash on it. I think that this can be a good way of getting 3 dots onto the target if you're getting trained. So you can go into bear form and put Thrash up, and then that'll provide with Moonfire and Sunfire 3 dots if you don't have a wild mushroom. So I actually do enjoy that. I've got Nature's Vigil and Innervate here. Once again, you could probably swap Nature's Vigil out again if you're fighting with a melee DPS to get into Ursine to get a little bit more personal defense. And then you could swap out of Innervate as well if you would like to. Possible that Protector of the Pack could see some play here with how much regrowth has been buffed. It might be all right to take this as well. If you really, it's on the bottom left side of the Druid talent tree instead of Innervate. If you want to just give a nice little power up. My Honor talents are also going to change. So with this one, we're not running Starburst anymore. We run High Winds and we run Owlkin Adept because this build is all about cycloning, controlling your opponents, and pinpointing that moment for burst damage and spamming out as many Star Surges as we can alongside our Orbital Strike. And I've got some gameplay here that we're going to be going over with these builds, and I'll show you why they're both so powerful in each given situation and how to play them. But these are the talent tree loadouts. This is how you want to think about it. I was going to do a Word document. I don't know if you guys want to do this with me, but basically, like, what situations would you run these? So think of your talent trees. This build right here is single target. So if you're playing with single target classes, I'm thinking Hunters, single target class, Rogues, single target class, Windwalker Monks, single target class. You're going to want to play this build. It's going to be pointless to play the Starfall build if your ally is a single target class, because you're not going to hit the threshold of damage to overwhelm the enemy healer, and you're probably going to break their crowd control because they're a class. If they're single target, they're usually based around crowd control. So you want to synergize your talents with the class that you're playing with. So if you're doing solo shuffle, you got a rogue, a monk, a hunter, enhancement shaman, these single target classes. Run the single target build. If you're playing in and you've got an elemental shaman, you got basically any warlock spec or a shadow priest, area of effect classes, you're going to want to play the Starfall build. And this is the easiest way that I can really break this down to understand which one is better in each given scenario. The Starfall build will also feel a lot more reliant on your teammates. You may feel like, well, I did a lot of damage, but I didn't win at a lot of the games that you play this build. Whereas with the single target build, you can control the end of the match and stop your opponents a lot more readily and a lot more easily. So take those pros and cons into consideration when you're selecting these two talent trees and flip between them accordingly. AoE Starfall talents for when you're playing with an AoE class. And again, you're going to want to switch your Honor talents too, because I haven't in this situation. And then single target talents when you are playing with an AoE class. And that's going to be like a a pretty bulletproof way of knowing when to switch between your talents and which one's going to be more rewarding. So let's take a look at gameplay here. So you can see in this clip right now, I am playing with an elemental shaman. So it's an AoE class. So we should play Starfall build. This is going to synergize a lot more effectively, and we'll skip a little bit further, maybe a little bit too far ahead here into the match, and what our goals are with this build. So you don't want to be casting spells with this new Starfall build. You want to be spamming Moonfire. You're going to see that we're running the proc incarnation. So just get dots up. I crowd control both Warlocks with Root Solar Beam right away. This is going to allow us to get dots up onto the whole team for free. We're going to incarn. We're going to pop Starfalls right away, procking our free Starsurges. Make sure you're using those procced Starfalls and Starsurges. We'll go for a Bash Cyclone on the healer. We get denied. We don't care. Shoot your Fury of Elune on cooldown. It's a 40-second cooldown, does a truck ton of damage, generates a ton of astral power. Main goal with this build is to spam Moonfire, spam Moonfire, spam Moonfire. Do not stop spamming globals. You need to be using a global every single time off global. Spend all of your astral power so that you're cycling your Arcanic Pulsar and getting to your next proc incarnation as frequently as possible to do as much damage as you can. You can see in this clip, we're peaking somewhere up around 70,000. I think in one of my games, I almost broke 100,000 DPS. So really focus on just hammering instant cast, and you can see that it's a lot more beginner friendly. We're not really focused on Cyclone. Super effective into double caster and super effective when I have an AoE caster on my team. But if the Ellie was an enhance, we wouldn't want to be playing like this. And honestly, I'm making a mistake here. Should shoot my Fury of Elune on cooldown. This is the one thing that I'm looking to improve, because this is a new thing for 10.1, is that Fury of Elune is a 40-second cooldown, does a lot more damage. So you want it to hit as many targets as possible and get it on cooldown as frequently as possible, because you need to be generating astral power, maintaining your 2 dots on your target, pushing in, bashing the healer, playing really aggressive, picking up your Starburst from the ground, running them into your enemies. Look at this, it's bouncing up in the air. Everybody's dying. They're not having a really good time right now. You can see it's quite a vibe. It's quite chill, and it's really effective when your partner is also doing AoE damage. I mean, look at this, right? Like they are all just getting destroyed. This Resto Druid is internally screaming right now because of the amount of pressure. So this one is just all about min-maxing, getting everything on cooldown as frequently as possible, stunning the healer if you're playing offensive. Here it's double Warlock, so I'm not too worried about peeling them. So I'm bashing the Druid, and boom, just absolute decimation. Just completely destroy that lobby. So you're playing with an AoE class, run the AoE build, and you're going to be absolutely killing it. The next type of build is the single target build. So in this lobby, I made the mistake of playing the AoE build with this Windwalker, and it ended up costing me the game because Windwalkers don't do AoE damage. But and same thing with the Hunter. So when I switched to my single target build here, which you're about to see, was it in the final round? It looks like I'm playing the AoE build with the Warlock in the final round here, which is correct. Here with the Hunter. Hunters are single target class. We want to play single target build. This is going to play a lot differently. You're going to be using Cyclone a lot more. You're going to be looking for crowd control. You're going to be looking for burst moments, and you're going to be banking your Star Surges up a little bit more. So again, the playstyle is a lot different between the two of them, and you're going to want to switch it given who your partner is. So AoE, I'd just be breaking traps. Not going to be a good time. Hunter doesn't do AoE damage. We want to be single target. We want to focus on crowd control. So we're sneaking in with the Hunter. We're looking to try and bash the kill target, which is likely the Windwalker. We bash the Windwalker, Root Beam the healer to prevent them from using Tiger's Lust for a moment to hold him in that beam as long as possible. I see the Hunter has scattered the Windwalker, so this means we're probably not going Windwalker, so I'm going to switch my dots onto the Warlock instead. This means I should look to use Cyclones on the Windwalker and stop them from attacking. Here they've used Serenity, so we're going to Trinket and Bark Skin. If you see a Serenity, you see enemy melee DPS using cooldowns on you, use your personals, escape, try and get to safety, try and use Cyclones. If you get kicked, it's not the end of the world. The kick's going to be over. You're going to be able to go for another Cyclone, and when you're kicked with this build, you can cast Stellar Flare instead, which is really nice, which is why I still like running Stellar Flare. Here we're rooting up the Infernal, rooting up the Monk, trying to go for some Cyclones, try and kill off these Observers. This is a new talent from Warlocks. You either want to run out of range of it as soon as possible or kill it because it will destroy you. We get a Scatter on the Windwalker. We can clone the Windwalker out of the Scatter. We can chase down the Warlock, get into Eclipse, dump all of our Star Surges. You can see I'm not really just spamming Moonfire and Sunfire like I was with that other build. We're trying to use our Wild Mushrooms to proc that third dot here for Waning Twilight to keep our pressure going onto the Warlock. We get Shadow Furied here. We're going to bash the Monk defensively. We get really low. You can shadow meld when you get low like this to try and dodge a Touch of Death or try and dodge a Chaos Bolt. We're going to use Frenzied Regen, and we actually end up dying in this game. But this build is going to be way more effective with single target classes than AoE would have been in this scenario. Wouldn't have been able to accomplish it. Let's see if we can find the Windwalker game, because I think it was the Windwalker game where we ended up doing a bit better with this build specifically, because the first time I played with the Windwalker, I think I played AoE and it went absolutely miserably, and then the second time I played with the Windwalker, it was a lot better for us overall. And then with this class, just trying to skip around and find a good moment in the start of the game, which is kind of tough to do apparently with this VOD. When we jump in here, name of the game here, again, it's going to be Solar Beam the healer, Incap the healer, and Cyclone the healer. Really good to just, here I bash the hunter. You don't want to do this. This is a mistake. Bash beaming the hunter was a mistake. I don't know if I just fat fingered that keybind. Never Solar Beam the hunter, there's no reason. We end up getting an Incap Cyclone. Really important to use Cyclones there out of crowd control to chain them together. If somebody runs out of your line of sight, just attack the next thing that's out in the open. There's no reason really for me to chase down the Warlock. I can make the Hunter panic, pull the Paladin into a better position. Succubus, if you ever see this pet, you're going to want to use Typhoon to knock it whenever it's using its Seduce onto your healer. We get to clone up onto the Hunter. Our DR is running out onto the Paladin. We got 3 dots on the Warlock, so we want to be looking for a Cyclone onto the Paladin as soon as possible. We cycle on the Warlock low HP to prevent the recovery, and then we get a Fear on the Paladin. We'll clone on top just in case it breaks the damage. That forces Divine Shield. Puts us really far ahead. You can see my damage is not nearly as high with this build, but it's way more effective in forcing cooldowns, and we're still just continuing to get pressure. I think we just kill the Warlock without even getting crowd control by continuing to dump our Starsurges regardless of crowd control in that instance. So we were able to just completely overwhelm the target. And these are the kind of the pros and cons of running that single target versus AoE. Those are the main contributing reasons. Enemies are chasing you. You probably just want to trinket and Barkskin right away when they've used cooldowns on you, get distance and escape from them regardless of build. That's going to be important for you to be able to survive. Can be risky to be aggressive. You saw in that game that I showed you that I lost. I pushed forward and went on top of them and ended up dying because I went in on top of them. Whereas the other game, I kind of stayed back, just attacked the hunter and didn't run into a compromised position. So these are things just to think about when you're playing through in the game to try and increase your chances of victory. But these are the builds. This is where I think that they are strong and where they are weak, and how you can utilize them for your own success. You can start grinding some rating in the early season, start unlocking some of those elite transmogs, hopefully working towards those gladiator mounts as well as new penance. I think there's a lot of new actual cosmetic rewards here for PvP in the season. But we've covered the gear, we covered the stats. Gems are probably going more so over towards versatility mastery. Focus on Haze Verse. You guys all know that from the start of the video here. We've covered that. You got the talent loadouts. You know what gear to go after. Give you an idea. You can obviously watch my stream. It's linked in the description down below as well for like live in-game experience, as opposed to just kind of like this VOD review. But if you like the video, make sure to thumbs it up. Comments down below with your thoughts. If you got any other unanswered questions at this time, that's going to be a great place to put them. But other than that, thank you very much for watching the video. I hope that this has provided you a lot of intel to start getting some success and get some ratings. So thank you, and I will see you in the next video.